There we go. All right, turn that on real quick. Make sure you guys keep yourselves muted. If you have a question, let us know, but I'm gonna get started right now. Okay.
What's a computer?
Let me share my screen real quick. So we're gonna go to screen one. So the first thing I'm gonna cover Active Directory, and I've done this before like several times. If you guys have any questions, just let us know. Like I have like all the moderators here, which is kind of weird. I have Steven, I have Hemi here, I have Kev here. So actually all the mods are here, which is strange. But anyway, I'm gonna go over Active Directory. So if you guys don't know anything about like learning Active Directory, like the first thing I tell someone usually to start out with is actually start out with downloading VirtualBox, right? Like get your hands dirty, download VirtualBox and download like VMware or EXSI or something, right? You want to get some sort of virtualization going in your environment. I'm gonna make Steven a co-host as well, just so you could admit everyone else here that's coming in as I'm doing this. Oh yeah, Hammy too. Sorry about that. Hammy too. Me, co-host. Yes. All right. So you could just admit everyone as they're coming in. So yeah. So basically, like we talk about virtualization, right? So about like an emulator. So like you could just play around with it, and it doesn't affect your physical computer. So it only affects the virtual machine that you're running. So that's why if you see here on my screen, like I have VirtualBox, Oracle VirtualBox. I downloaded it online. And that's like the first thing I cover in one of my YouTube videos is going into Google and going into VirtualBox. You download that one. There's several different ones, obviously, but we downloaded this one. I downloaded the newest version right here, and just make sure you download the right one. And obviously, there's Windows and there's OS X and there's Linux. Like so many different flavors of it, right? So I downloaded the Windows one. So the second thing you need to download to get this to work is you need to go and download the ISO, right? So we're going to do here in the Windows Server 2016 ISO. You get like 2019, it doesn't really matter, like whatever one you want to use. This is Windows Server 2016. We'll go in the Microsoft website, right? And you have to go to the evaluation center. And basically what this is, it allows you to use it for 180 days. Fun fact, Steven and me went over this, or Steven and me talked about this. You could it's all good. You could run a CMD command, right? And basically you could extend 180 days to more days. So like you feel like you're running out of days to run the server, you could actually increase the days. Entirely up to you. So here we would download the ISO. You wouldn't download the Azure one, and you just click continue and you just download it. So these two things, I have them ready on my computer, so I am not gonna spend time here and download them again because I'm not gonna make you wait. So what we do is you just open up VirtualBox, right? I already have a lab environment set up, which I'm gonna open later on. I'm not gonna open it right now. So I'm gonna make a new one. I'm gonna call it new, and I'm gonna call it Server 2016. And then we're gonna do Server 2016. Just call it Server 2016 Discord. You call it whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it Server 2016. So.
Does anybody have any questions at this point so far? Or is everybody pretty much comfortable with this part of it?
Are you comfortable with downloading like this, like the actual Windows, server ISO and the other stuff? Or
this part's very important. If you guys don't get this part, you can't do the rest.
Yeah,
so if raise your hand or put something in the chat so we can see it, and then maybe we can answer the questions.
Yep. Otherwise, I'll continue going. So I'm gonna go here, and this is basically memory, right? So basically, I'm allocating memory from my physical machine. And Steve could call me on this. It's using your resources on your PC. So if your PC is slow, obviously you're not gonna give it a lot of memory, right? So you want to be careful with what your PC, like this is taking resources from your PC. So obviously I have 64 gigs of RAM, so I could give it way more than normal. I'm giving it 8, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit 8, I'm gonna hit next, and then I'm gonna leave this alone. I'm gonna hit create, I hit next. I'm gonna hit next. So then this is the same thing, right? We're using the hard drive or the space from your PC, right? So if you don't have enough hard drive space, you want to probably decrease this, right? So I'm using 50 for this one. So I'm gonna create, it's done, right? So now the way I do it, because everyone has their own way of doing it. Usually I just start up the VM right away. And then I already have the ISO already. It goes to the ISO automatically. Like you click on this, you click on add, and there's a Windows 10 one. There's the Hiring Boot CD right over here. There's Windows 11. I have so many. You go to the desktop. I have server 2016 right on my desktop. So I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to hit open, right? I'm going to choose that one and I'm just going to start it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just picking that up, grabbing that one and choosing it. That's it. So you guys don't have any questions about this, right? It's pretty easy, right? Stuff. Hopefully it's not complicated. So I gotta click on it. I didn't even click on it. So I'm gonna do this. Reset. There we go. It's pretty straightforward. So basically I'm booting into the ISO or the image and I'm gonna hit next. I'm gonna hit install now. I see someone's writing in chat. You see it, Nick Steve?
Let's see. In the Zoom chat?
Yep.
Nothing else, just says yeah and good morning.
Okay, all right, cool.
Nothing really in there.
All right, so we're gonna download the desktop experience one, and I'm gonna hit next. Continue the terms of agreement. Obviously, we're not upgrading anything because we're installing it for the first time, so we're not gonna upgrade anything. We're gonna hit custom install Windows only, right? And then here is where you wanna if you wanna create a partition, you can. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna allocate everything on drive 0, and I'm gonna hit next.
Now, there's a question in there. Is there any advantage with choosing 2019 over 2016? 2019 is going to have some more bells and whistles than 2016. They're all pretty much the same. So if you learn 2016, 19 to 22, they're basically all the same. Now, whatever Microsoft throws in, they're a little more bells and whistles, but maybe Hammy, you can chime in on that if you know a little bit more about what's going on with the newer versions. But
group policy is different.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's different on 2019 versus 2016. It's totally different.
Is it better or worse?
No, it's like you have more stuff on it.
Oh,
It's different. It's different.
Okay.
They added more features on it.
Okay.
From my understanding, they added more features on it.
Hammy, is that true?
You can add those administrative templates like from server 2022. You can add those back to 2016. So you don't have to update to get all those new group policy objects.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so this part is like fairly easy and straightforward and boring. It's basically part of IT is you have to wait for things to install, you know. It's just how IT is sometimes with certain installations, you just have to wait and let it do its thing. Let's see if someone has a question. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. It installs fairly fast for me. I have an SSD, I have a solid state drive, so my computer is pretty fast.
That's pretty much what you can see, guys. I mean, installing this thing is pretty zippy. And at this point here, it's just an operating system. So it's just a server operating system. So it's just basically like an operating system. It's nothing special yet. It's just, if you know Windows 10, you know server. Basically, it's the same thing until you start adding roles, then it becomes totally something different. So.
Yeah, so I'm just installing it right now, and you'll be surprised though. You'll be surprised. Like I went to a school, right? And about 90% of them did not know how to install Active Directory. So I had to do like a live video on this, like what I'm doing today. I had to do a live video on this with everyone because nobody knew what Active Directory was and nobody knew how to set it up. So people are scared of doing it because they think that it's complicated. It's not. When you see it and when you do it, right? You're like, oh, that's it? Is that easy to do? Yeah, it's not easy to do. Don't be scared of it, you know? So right now here, it just wants a password. It's gonna ask you for a password. I'm gonna make a password for this. But once you do it, and Steve could call me on this. Once you do it a couple of times over and over again, it just becomes relatively like self-explanatory, easy, you know, muscle
Yeah.
memory.
Pretty much gets boring.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay.
It's the same thing, and they haven't changed it in 2022. It's the exact same installation. So, I mean, Microsoft makes it that way for a purpose, so anybody can do it. I mean, they can't really change it too much.
Exactly. So like the first thing I'm gonna do is just wait for everything to come up. Just wait for everything to load. I'll say yes for that. That's fine.
Now, Kevtech logged into the local administrator account on this machine. So it's sort of like the same thing with Windows 10. The first account that you log into is with the local administrator account. And from there, he's going to start creating different users to log in. So right now he's just logged in as a local administrator account.
Yep. Now, like the first thing I do is like you have all these options up here. I'm just waiting for it to load everything because it does take a little bit of see how it's freezing on me when I click on it. You gotta let it load everything. It's just loading everything. So there's like if you want to hide the welcome template, you can. That's entirely up to you. Like some people do this, they hide this welcome template. There's other things here as well, like help, about server manager, server forms. There's these tools right over here. There's a bunch of other things there. And then also if you click on this, there's a bunch of stuff over here. There's like your flag right over here. You go to local server right over here. You click on that. Gives you a little bit more information about the server, about all the stuff over here.
Oh, actually, this page here is a very good page. This basically gives you the inside look of everything that's going on. I mean, if you guys studied out this page and start clicking on these little links, it'll take you to everywhere that you want to go inside the server operating system. It's a pretty cool little dashboard they have here, I think.
Yep. It's fairly easy, in my opinion. What I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at something right now. So the first thing I usually do is I like to rename the computer. So when you open the server up for the first time, I'm on C Explorer. Typically, you go to this PC, right? And you right click on it, you go to properties. It gives you this crappy name. And Steve knows about this, right? Gives you this name, like what is this, right? Like Win-O1GAQ3FROSE, right? It's just like we don't name our computers like that. Like Steve, you usually right in a job environment was like DC01, DC02, or domain controller, right? It's called DC something, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they kind of keep it the same kind of naming conventions.
And I'm going based on my job experience from all my jobs I have worked. Typically, is like it's DC something, right? So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna type rename -computer.
Now take notice of where he's at, guys. He's not in CMD. He's in PowerShell. So all guys take note of that.
And then I'm gonna do shutdown -R, and I'm gonna restart the computer. So what I did was I did PowerShell. I ran rename -computer, and the name, it gave me the box to rename the computer. And then I ran shutdown -R, which forces you to reboot the computer. Because when you rename the computer, it prompts you to restart anyway. So I'm gonna let that thing do its restart. But that's basically what I ran. I ran rename -computer or -computer right over here. Now it's restarting. So it's just something that it's easy to do. Like I could have right clicked on this PC, right? And then gone into properties and renamed it that way, but I chose to do it in PowerShell. Because sometimes in your job, in my job, I don't know about Steven, but sometimes in my job, right? the clicking GUI method doesn't work sometimes. It's like extremely slow. It crashes. It freezes. You can't click on it. It doesn't work. Like, come on, man. Why is this not working? So sometimes you got to go into PowerShell and do it in PowerShell. Unfortunately, you're forced to do it on PowerShell. So
So if you minimize that for a second, Kev, just minimize that window for a sec. If you go down in the corner, you can see what you're running. You're running Windows Server 2016. It tells you what the license is valid for. 180 days, you can play around with this. And then after that, you can rearm it for another 180 days, free of charge. It's all free. You just rearm it and you can keep on doing your practice labs. You can also rearm Windows 10 Enterprise as well, or Pro, whatever you download as far as the ISO goes. So just keep that in mind.
yep. And you see that you see I renamed it, right? Like, it's a different name now. So a few other commands I love running, like Steve loves commands. I love my commands too, like system info or system, I think it's system.info, or is it system
You want system info 32, that one?
There we go, systeminfo.exe.
There you go.
So you do that, it tells you the name of the computer, it tells you what kind of version it is, it tells you if it's a standalone server, it tells you the installation day, when you installed it for the first time, which I installed it today. Look, it gives you the exact date and time that you installed it, the system boot time, the manufacturer, the system model, the model type, and it gives you all this other information like the C drive, Windows Explorer, how much physical memory you have, what are the hot fixes or patches you have on this for Windows updates, if it's a work group or domain PC, and it tells you a little bit more information about the IP address, the ECP, the HTTP server. So Steve, that's something that I like to do. I run these weird commands sometimes. I like to play around with stuff. So systeminfo.exe will give you all this information. So like if you can't get on system 32, or the system info, which is this, like now we're going to my computer, right? System information. If you can't go to that, you could just type it in CMD, type systeminfo.exe, and it will give you that information. So I could have gone to the traditional way, right? In this PC, and I could have done change settings right here and then change it and then change the name right here, do all this other stuff. I'm not going to do that today, but now we're going to install Active Directory. And this is like where people get scared of Active Directory. Don't be afraid of Active Directory. It's nothing mind-boggling. It's easy to set up. So we have tools right over here, right? We have manage right over here. So we're going to add roles and features, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit role-based features, right? Hit next. DC01 is what I want to install it in. Yes, next. And we have all these things right over here, right? I'm going to install Active Directory domain services. Now it's going to add all this other stuff, part of it, and adds it to the features, right? Which is totally fine. We're not going to install any of these other things right now. I'm going to hit next. We're going to hit next. And then what is this? Kevin, what is this, Kevin? So this is for Azure ID Connect. So if you're trying to make your server 2016 AD Connect on-prem with Azure services, then you would go in here and set it up. And it even gives you the option, like when you click on it, right? It tells you more information about it. So we see how you're getting all these prompts right over here, like all these prompts. To get rid of this, which I don't recommend, it's the server, but to get rid of all those annoying prompts, I'm gonna hit cancel. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna go back in here. I'm gonna move all the way to the right.
Now, first of all, before he does this, guys, see where it was going to, what browser he was even opening up yet?
IE.
Search in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Internet Explorer. So isn't that strange yet? I'm surprised they haven't used Edge yet in this version. But
Yep.
even in the newer one, I don't think they even went to Edge yet in the 2022. I'm not really sure about that. But that's very interesting that it still points back to good old reliable Internet Explorer. So
Yeah, so you turn off this is not recommended, but obviously because I'm getting annoyed by the prompts, right? I turned that off. So where you go is you go in here, you go back to manage. And it should stop doing that. It should stop asking, oh, do you want to allow this? Do you want to allow that website? So we're gonna go back here to Active Directory domain services, add features like I did before. Next. Configure Office 360. It should stop doing that now. See, it just goes straight to the website instead of you allowing it every single time. And it tells you right here, like what what the differences are for Active Directory, AD Connect, and all that good stuff. So Steven, do you have on-prem AD Connect or is it hybrid? Is there no cloud services? How are you?
I believe it's ours is going now to hybrid. We have it up in a data center, and I do see some Azure stuff starting to come through. So I believe they are starting to migrate that over. Yes.
Got it.
At this point.
Got it. Yeah. So I'm gonna hit next. So I'm gonna hit install, and then basically we're trying to add Active Directory. Like, don't be afraid of Active Directory. Now it's installing the features and stuff like that, but don't be afraid of it. Like it's not. It's not scary, don't be scared of it. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's installing right now. Fairly easy setup.
Any questions so far, guys? Anything at all? Want to put it in the chat? Don't be afraid. Ask us a question at this point.
So I'm gonna do promote this server to a domain controller, right? We're not adding a domain controller to an existing domain. So we haven't created a domain controller yet. So obviously we're not going to click on this one. We're going to click on add a new forest. So me, I call it kevtech.com. You call it whatever you want. This is a question for everyone, even for you, Steven. If I call it kevtech.forms, does it work?
What? Form?
Forms. Yeah, forms. .forms. Would it work?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
I'm asking you. See if you know. It's one of my hot seat questions, by the way. I'm just wondering if you know.
I do not know the answer to that question, no.
So if I go here, right, and I delete this and I put .forms, would it work? You don't know?
I don't know.
I'm gonna put
I never ever tried it.
I think yes. Can work.
Think so, Donna?
Yes, it will work.
Yeah, it is gonna work. Because so one of my tests, right, for a guy we interview in Dallas, right? I put .forms and I asked him, is the computer in the domain or not in the domain? He said it's not in the domain, even though I said .forms. I'm like, no, it is on the domain. The PC is in the domain. It's joined to the domain with .forms. It's like, what the hell? Kev, I've never seen that before.
Go back to previous a second. That password what he just typed in is very, very critical, and I'm sure Hammy can back us up on this. You guys forget that password, you're shit out of luck, because this is the backup password for Active Directory. Yep. So you got to remember that password. Put it somewhere in a safe, somewhere. Or let's say if your company changes hands, you got to give that to the next people. If you don't, it's going to be bad. So that is a very, very important password, which he is writing in there. If not, you won't be able to back up your Active Directory. So,
yep. So I changed it back to kevtech.com, but you saw I could call it .forms. You call it .local. You call it a bunch of other stuff, and it's going to work. But because it's lab purposes only, right? Typically in a job environment, it'll be .local, .org, .com, or something like that. So just wanted to show you that because that's how it is, By default, these files are getting installed right over here. You see that. I don't know if Steve wants to say anything, but
we got a question in here. Is forum a domain?
It is. It could be a domain.
Yes.
Yes, it can. That's why it works. It could be a domain. It is. I have a gaming community I used to play on that the website is called .forms. It was called gaming blah 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 .forms, and it worked. So yeah, that's why I asked that question. So what I'm gonna do is, it gives you a PowerShell command on how to install it, right? I don't know if you see that. You see that, Steve? Yes. So I'm gonna click view script, and I'm gonna minimize that. I'm gonna hit cancel. I'm gonna hit yes. I'm gonna hit close, and I'm gonna hit close again, right? Then I'm gonna go back over here, and I'm gonna type PowerShell again. And I'm gonna do run as admin. All right. I'm gonna go back over here. I'm gonna copy this. Then I'm gonna hit paste and I'm gonna press enter. And it's gonna ask me for the password that I want to create for that administrator account. Remember that administrator account that we need to create for Active Directory? That's what it is. Now it's actually gonna install, it's gonna install Active Directory using PowerShell instead of how we normally do it. Now it's installing it right now using PowerShell.
Is this the local administrator account or that other DS?
The other DS account.
So that DS, that thing that I just talked about as far
Yeah.
as not being losing. So
Yeah.
that's the password it needs in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now I'm installing Active Directory using PowerShell instead of doing the manual way with GUI.
Yeah, I have never done that yet with.
Yeah, so I wanted to do that
that's
today.
That's pretty cool.
Yep, it's installing right now.
I'm sure Hammy's probably smelling from ear to ear right now.
Yeah, that's why I usually teach this, by the way, in my classes and in my classes where with California and the company called Murder America. So if you guys don't know about Murder America, but I usually train their students, and we do it in we do everything on PowerShell with the students. So obviously you got to look up the commands. You know, I'm not gonna know all the commands. You know, you got to look them up, but it's installing right now. So just give it a second. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah, I paste the command and right click, copy and paste. Hammy wrote right there. So, yep. Yeah, you got to give it a second. It's just installing everything.
Yeah, I kind of like the paste and copy feature inside of PowerShell. It's not like command prompt. You got to highlight it and hit Control C and then Control V. At least you get a copy and paste in PowerShell, which is really nice. I think that's a nice little thing they did, you know, make it more friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Working it with CMD, a little more archaic, but it does work. But a lot of times you highlight, you're like, oh, forgot to do that. You just right click and it just goes away. You got to highlight again and then Control C and then Control V it, copy and paste.
Yeah, I started incorporating PowerShell more in my actual job. Before I wasn't doing that because I didn't have access to that. I was like, everything was blocked, man. It's extremely annoying, you know. But now that I'm able to do PowerShell, the sky's the limit. I just started running everything on even Office 365, right? I started running that on PowerShell. Like everything's on PowerShell now for me. So yeah, I am gonna make a video on PowerShell commands on YouTube, so don't worry about that at some point. But yeah, definitely gonna make. It's gonna be like it's gonna be strictly all PowerShell commands. Look at that, it's shutting down by itself. Look at that, it's making me restart and everything. That's awesome. That's awesome. It finished it. I love the fact that I didn't know about that, by the way, like the scripting, the view scripting. I was playing around with it and I saw that. I'm like, oh, it creates a script for you. Oh, that's pretty cool. Let me play around with it and see what it does. And then, you know, it actually created the AD domain controller and everything. Wow, that's cool. So it's pretty cool.
Now, if you wanted to edit the name, like how would you?
It's in a notepad. It wasn't a notepad. It created a notepad
Notepad.
for you. You could just change the name to whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pretty easy. You should try it, Steve, when you have some downtime today.
Yeah,
Pretty
I'll throw
easy.
it in there and see once and see if I can create another one with you.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very fun. I didn't know about that. I just manually usually do it, right? And then I'm like, oh, it has view script over here. Oh, what does that do? And I just paste it. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really easy. Why am I scared of PowerShell? Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, that's cool. So
I mean, like I said, I actually saw like they have like a 5-hour video from Microsoft. The guy who actually invented it, they call him Mr. PowerShell or whatever, but that's the guy that actually invented it. And he said they tried to make it simple, but it's what it does is powerful. That's why it's called PowerShell. But they said they had to move away from command prompt at some point, and this was and they came to them with this project saying that from Microsoft that you guys got to do something with this, make it somewhere where you can actually run more powerful commands in like another scripting language, and PowerShell was invented. It was called something else, and they actually changed the name of it to PowerShell afterwards. I think it was the guy said, but it was very, very, very informative. It came from Microsoft back like 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
But it's very interesting to see that guy. He was, I mean, for 5 hours just watching the darn video, he was very into it, because he pretty much knew it inside and out. But it's fun. It was very, very interesting to watch that. So see right now what's going on, guys, here is it's turning into a domain controller. So there's a lot of registry entries being put in, a lot of other add-ons being put on right now. Everything that you saw is being installed. So the registry right now is getting hit pretty hard. If you had a heat map right now of the registry, it's probably changing like very, very rapidly, and stuff like that. So that is what's going on at this point. And then when he comes back up, you're going to see a lot of different things when he logs back in now. A lot of different add-ons been added, stuff like that, and the roles have been applied. So
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward to install Active Directory. I am gonna make another video at some point of me installing Active Directory and combining it together with pfSense. That should be very interesting. It's gonna because I'm gonna put a bunch of firewalls and a bunch of it's gonna be a bunch of networking stuff that I normally don't do. But that's gonna be probably next year, maybe not this year. I'm gonna cover more networking next year.
So does anybody have any questions? The chat's been kind of quiet. Anybody? I mean, we have a lot of people watching, I believe. I don't know
There's like a
if
19, 20.
anybody else have any questions? Don't be afraid to ask. All we're doing is watching the spinning beads of death here. Which server 22, I believe this is the same thing. They just have beads.
Pretty easy, right?
This part's pretty straightforward. If you can get by this part,
You pretty much got everything else.
you got to, well, yeah, I mean, then all the learning begins. DHCP, DNS, group policy.
Yeah, exactly.
All that other good stuff. Then that's when the technical part really kicks in. But if Kev never turned this thing into a domain controller, it's just an OS. You can run it just like Windows 10. It actually does not know. You can build it out to what you want to do. Now all the services are all turned off, because remember, this is like a server is a stripped down version of Windows 10. They turn every service in the world on. That's why if you look at system resources, they're pretty much getting pounded. On a server, you want to run it lean and mean. You only want services turned on that you need to run the server. And that is why, because those servers are going to get hit every day. And because it's, they're going to hand out, because, you got to think about that too. So they turn off a lot of services, and even audio. You got to turn on audio, because audio is not going to be turned on by default. You got to go in, you got to turn all these services on. I think that part there is an art too, of learning what services need to be turned on to make it interact, to make it work for you too as well. That part there I don't know much about. I don't know, Kevin, if you know much about that, but I think as you go along and say, oh, this service needs to be turned on, or that.
Yeah. That's what I kind of lost touch with that in my other job. I'm not talking about my previous job, my job before that, because I was a junior sysadmin in that job. So we would have a dedicated server for SQL, like databases, right? We will obviously, if you're having an issue with the server, you wouldn't reboot the whole server, right? You would restart a service.
Right.
So I would go in there and restart a service that I knew has something to do with it. So that's basically what it is. If you know anything, if you know like services, you don't understand how services work, then you're pretty much are going to be pretty good at being a sysadmin, because they always resetting. We're always restarting services. We wouldn't restart a whole server. So this part here is very important. Like you could tell by looking at this that it's joined to the domain by looking at this, but sometimes people get confused, right? Like you go to other user, look on the bottom, it says sign into Kevtech, right? People get confused about this, and then Steve knows about this. You click on how do I sign into another domain? You click on that, and it gives you more information. It's, oh, you can log in. Oh, the name of the server is TC-01. Oh, look at it. Look at this. The username's right there. How to log in as a local user account, right? It's very interesting stuff over here. It's very, very useful. for someone, especially when you're brand new. Like usually you'll get a test on this, like it'll give you a lab, right? And they'll ask you like, is this PC joined to the domain or is it not on the domain? Can you please let me know? And obviously it says sign into Kevtech, and then you click on this link right over here and it has all this information, and you know that it's on a domain. But sometimes it may not be on a domain. Sometimes you probably can't even see this. So you probably won't even see this. You probably just see the person logged in and that's it. So I don't know if Steve wants to say anything.
No, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, you gotta remember now we have a Kevtech administrator account and we have a local administrator account. So when he logs in, they're two separate things, right? Am I wrong on that? No.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So now watch, it's gonna come up. So now he's back in. And
Yeah, don't be afraid of Active Directory. We just installed it, right? Now it's there. So don't be afraid
look
of
on the side here. Well, what it added, guys? DNS, got file and storage services. You know, we added a couple of those smart things there, and you can see these roles have been started down here as well. So something that wasn't there before. Now we're starting to get a little bit more serious. And this is where all the magic happens.
pretty easy. Just we installed it. So now this is where a sysadmin might give you access to only a certain part of Active Directory, right? And then they you because someone here said earlier, oh, okay, so how does a server start, right? Like how does it begin, right? We just installed the server. We just installed Active Directory. So now this is probably what you'll see on your Active Directory. Because like another guy here spoke earlier, and he said he had access to Active Directory, but he doesn't know how he got started. You know, basically you install it, you set it up, now you have access to it, and then here you have all these different options. Like you could create a brand new account, you could create a group, you could add a printer, you could add a share folder. When you're brand new to Helpdesk, Steve could quote me on this. All you care about is probably security groups and users, and that's it. If you're doing Helpdesk or IT support, you wouldn't be doing all these advanced things like group policy and stuff like that. That'd be way too much, right? So,
now one thing I remember, the guys, all you newbies out there with Helpdesk or whatever, you will not will not be on this server on this screen. They do not do that out in the real world. You will use something called Rsat
tools. Yep.
Okay, that will give you access, remote
Shut this down.
access to this server, which you can make all the changes in Active Directory. You can make most of the changes, okay? The stuff that they'll let you into. That's how they can kind of like control what parts you touch, what parts you don't touch. So just remember that, like, this here is for the big guys. This is for the almighty IT guy. He may not even touch this server. They don't want anybody physically getting their hands on this server unless they physically have to. The Rsat tools will be your dashboard that you'll be working with all the time. It's just the way it is. But you got to ask yourself a question. Do you really want to touch the server? Because then if you do something wrong on the physical server, it comes back to you. So, you know, keep that in mind too.
Yep. Yeah, so right now I'm just opening my VM. I have a bunch of VMs.
Oh, is this like Windows 10 now? You're on Windows 10.
Yeah, I'm on Windows 10 right now.
Oh, okay.
It's a different
He
VM.
may show you how to do the Rsat tools from here as well. Once he gets logged in.
I'm trying to log into this VM because there's like so many scripts right now.
So the people that are watching, you guys know what the Rsat tools are? Anybody in the chat? Anybody want to chime in to tell us what they actually do?
Just checking I'm waiting for my server to come up because I have another server. Just checking the specs on this one. Someone said something in chat.
Got a question. in virtual-
John, you have to change the settings on the server, and you have to give it an IP address from your local service provider, your ISP, or you would put it, you would set up your home router or something like that. You have to, because he's trying to ask how do you get internet on the server and on your Windows 10 PC, because I put a static IP on everything on my VMs, but some people want to actually have internet on it, so you have to change the network adapter settings, and you have to give it internet, and you have to give it an IP address from your service provider. That's the only
So-
way it's gonna work.
Are you talking on VirtualBox how to give that internet access? You'd have to go in and change the adapter settings on VirtualBox. And then that will translate over to the NIC, which maybe Kev can pull that up on VirtualBox, the main screen, and he can show you where the drop-down list is for the bridge adapter part of it, I believe. Yeah. Like right there, that if that's what you're talking about, this is where you would do it to give internet access. But remember, once you do this, you're opening it up to the world. But still, it's in a virtual environment. So if you get hacked on here or a virus, well, who cares? You just blow it away and you move on with life. But remember, though, that's, you're opening it up to the world here now. So, yep, no problem.
Yep. You have to change the DNS settings and everything. So it's basically what it is. Right now, what I'm doing is this has internet. Oh, this one's asking chat. All right. So right now, what I'm doing is this has internet. So this computer is actually a computer that I'm working with an intern. But it's okay. I'll make a new VM. Let's just open this up real quick. It's gonna be very, very slow for me. So in here. I'm typing program. This thing's a little slow. Add and remove programs.
So here, guys, is where you find those Rsat tools that we talk about. Now, one thing at my work, they block us from going out to the Windows update server update, the WUS server, as they call it, the Windows update. So you got to do some kind of registry hack to bypass a group policy to go on out to download this, which I found out the other like a month or 2 months ago on how to do that. But they may block it at your work if they block out any kind of Windows updates. But if they don't, this is how you do it. If not, you got to do some trickery and then revert it back after you download it. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm just installing Rsat tools. Looks like it's not doing anything, but it is. Yeah, this VM's a little slow. But it does have internet. It's a little slow for me. I'm waiting for my server to come back up because I have another server, not the same one, different server. So this one I've been practicing on. If you see, there's a drive here. See, it's like there's a local drive I mapped. This is not a network. This is not a network drive. It's a local. It's a local drive.
Oh, so it's not a home drive.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's a regular local drive that I created inside the Windows 10 machine.
Yeah. Okay.
Let that install. Wait for that to come up. Let me open up CMD for a second.
So you are correct. Rsat is just like sitting in front of the server. Yes. And they can lock it. They pretty much the sysadmin guy can lock whatever you want as far as your credentials go out, but what you can do at that server doing your Rsat tools.
Yep.
Is this computer in the domain? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if Kevtech showed us that or not. You can do the, okay. And that would be, well, Yeah, I guess. I think what?
It's not out of the domain.
No, it's not. If he does a who am I? If you do who am I? No, it's not.
Nope.
At least so. No, it's not.
I'm,
No, it's
I'm
not.
waiting for this.
It's not on
I'm
the
still
domain.
trying to get Rsat tools to download. It's like taking forever. It's like frozen.
But yeah, I guess it would work. Yeah, I guess it would work. You can download it and then join it back up to the main, then they'll get connected.
Yep.
If the computer's not on the domain, RSAT tools will not work.
Yep.
Will not make that connection.
Yeah, you could install it, but it's not gonna let you do anything with it because it's not on the domain. Not yet, anyway. So
And RSAT is not cooperating
hey, you see that, right?
for some reason.
I'm gonna do this. Give me a second.
I don't know why.
Just give me a second. Because my VM is a little slow today. This VM is a little slow today. It has 8 gigs of RAM too, by the way. Look how slow it is. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It's crazy, right? How slow it is.
Yeah, some of the VMs go good and some of them don't. Now, what he's doing there, guys, is turning off a lot of extra features that the Windows 10 regular or Pro has, right? But that server's not going to have all these goodies on it. I mean, again, you want it lean and mean. You want it to run the fastest it can with a very amount of minimal resources being spended on it. So
yeah, I'm gonna restart it because it's really slow for some reason.
yeah, the RSAT tools is just like, you being there without being on the physical, without looking at the operating system. Basically, I mean, it's really cool on how it works. I think it's really cool. It's amazing that it does work as well as it does, and you make that change, and it's pretty much instant. Until I unlock someone's account, it's instant. It's crazy how well it does work, but give the people props for that. Whoever developed that was some smart people. Let me tell you.
Yep. Yeah, I have this sheet that I'm using.
Mhm.
Yeah, the computer's doing Windows updates. That's why it's so slow.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is it so slow?
Half of our times, guys, is spent waiting for Windows updates or some kind of update from the SCCM server or whatever. After you rebuild a machine or something like that, the first thing you want to do is maybe going out to the manufacturer's website, download all the updated drivers you can, and trying to get it up to a level where you can just log into it without getting hit with all these updates, because it does slow you down and they do take forever. They do take a lot of time out of your day, especially when you're in a rush. That's usually when a Windows update gets pushed out. So,
Got a lot of Windows updates, especially as doing it now when I'm trying to go over it.
yeah, exactly. Well, if you go back to the server, well, that's doing it. Can you show me anything else on the server?
Server is doing updates too.
Oh, okay then. Any questions, guys, so far while the Windows gets updates from the Windows Update server, which is called the WUS server, by the way, if you call it WUSI, Windows server, what's it? Windows Server Update server, I believe that's what it's called.
Yep.
Anybody in the chat? Besides, we got DD. Work. Anybody?
Quiet.
Anybody at all? Don't be shy, people. You
Hey
guys all
Kev, hey
professionals?
Steven, how's it going?
Hey, good. What question do you have for us?
No question, just wanted to say hello.
Oh, hello. Anybody with a question? Anybody want to ask how tall is Kevin? Anything at all. Getting Windows ready. You always wonder what the heck is it doing? Yeah, that's the question of the year. Everybody would love to get inside. It's sort of like, what is heaven like? This is kind of like what heaven is like, waiting for freaking Windows updates ready. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going on in the background. You're just like, is it going to be done? Is it going to be over? Is it going to come back up? Takes forever. It's a mystery.
Pretty much.
Yep. That's for sure. Do. You said earlier in the real world, they would never touch the server. So with the Rsat, can we do everything we need to do in the server, even advanced stuff?
Yes and no. It
Yeah.
depends how much access you have.
Yeah. Pretty
Depends
much
what,
if you can do PowerShell, you could probably, if you have access to everything on the server, you could probably do it in that if you really wanted to. But yeah, anything with DNS, DHCP, Active Directory, users and computers. That's pretty much your policy. You know, you could, if you have access to everything there, yeah. I mean, like I said, because some of these servers are locked away somewhere in a data center, and believe me, they're under lock and key. You can't even smell them. The only time you touch them is when something goes down and a power supply or something like that, and or whatever, a hard drive, you gotta swap it out or something. Or other than that, they don't want you touching them because, you know, it's not what people do.
So this is a domain controller, and a lot of companies have a lot of different services running on their domain controller, not just Active Directory. Some companies have one server, it's their domain controller, it has their DNS hosted on it, it has their DHCP hosted on it, it has file shares hosted on it. And so they don't want you remoting into the actual server, because then you have access to literally everything on that. So what Rsat Tools basically gives you access to is just that Active Directory using computers window that he had access to. So it's giving you access to just one part of that service on the domain controller.
yep.
But what about like DNS and stuff like that? Does it give you access to that or not? I mean, or not really?
No,
No, really? Oh yeah, just Active Directory. Really? Okay.
DNS is like a whole nother snap-in for
Okay.
an MMC tool.
Okay. All right.
And what most companies do is they create security groups. So if they have certain people who are like tier 1 people, they'll have like a tier 1 security group, and those people will have access to Active Directory on the domain controller. But if you have like tier 2, you might have them have access to Active Directory and DNS on the domain controller. Or you might have some networking guys, and they don't need access to Active Directory. They just need access to DHCP that's hosted on the domain controller. There are other companies that have completely separate servers for each one of these services. That way, you know, if you ever do have a server completely go down, you don't have everything go down. You know, if like your DHCP server, you need to restart your DHCP server because something is completely borked in it. That doesn't also take down your DNS, your Active Directory, your file servers. So a lot of companies, that's why virtualization is such a big deal now, because a lot of companies, they would just buy one server and it would host everything. And if they ever had to restart it, it would take all the services down all at once. And so now with virtualization, you can separate those out and then only give access to certain people to certain services.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. We had a question in here, Hammy, for you. Maybe you can answer this. For language pack download, if it's not working, managed by WSUS, how do I download the language packs?
You can just go to Windows website and download those.
Okay.
Windows Update Services, that WSUS server, what that's supposed to do is it's supposed to limit the actual internet traffic on your network. So if you have one WAN connection at your corporate office and you have 150 computers there, and it's time for a new Windows update to come out, you don't want all 150 of those computers to go out to Microsoft and download that Windows update, because that's a lot of bandwidth. So what you do is you create a Windows Update server. That server goes out to Microsoft, downloads it, and then you point all your 150 computers to your local server. So they download the Windows updates over the LAN. So it's not killing your bandwidth out to the internet. It's just a local download. So that's the whole point of that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Ham, but doesn't the WSUS like Windows updates, doesn't that get pushed down through something called the bits or the binary intelligent transfer service? Isn't that what
you
does
would
it
just
in the
enable
background?
bits.
Correct?
Yeah, you would enable bits and through like a group policy, and you would do client side targeting for WSUS.
Okay.
And that way, whenever you have a group policy, because you might not want every one of your 150 computers to all download Windows updates from your Windows Update server on the same night, because
Right.
that's hitting your LAN all at once. So what you might do is, I want, with my client side targeting, I'm going to have all of my accounting department download their Windows updates on Tuesday nights. And then I'm going to have my purchasing department, I'm going to have all of them download theirs on Thursday nights. And so you can delegate that out, which also helps with your bandwidth, even on the local WAN or local LAN.
Okay. Okay. And do you know what year Rsat came out, Hammy? Like, when did they introduce that? Has
I
that
don't
been
know
out
history
forever?
stuff. You're the history guy.
Here's the history.
Yeah, Peggy Corp. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Because I know this is the only way now. Well, you can still download the old version of the Rsat on the website, but it's an older version. This is now the new way of doing it. But like I said, some of you guys may be able to do it at work. Sometimes you may not do it. Depends if they shut off the Windows Update service. You have to do a registry hack to go around that to download it, and then you can put it back in.
Well, just like with everything group policy, you can use group policy to push registry edits of any type, and you can push software downloads. So if you do have the actual installer package for Rsat, you can push that manually for users or for computers. So anytime a specific logs into any computer, it automatically installs Rsat tools. So it doesn't matter what computer they're on, they can automatically have Rsat tools installed during their login process. But usually when you start doing that kind of stuff though, it increases the login time. You know how whenever you're logging into a new computer and it says, hi, we're getting everything
Welcome.
ready for you.
Yeah.
If you start pushing a lot of software and a lot of things based on the user, it'll just make that login time, that very first login time take a lot longer. So you kind of want to be very wary about doing that.
Yeah, I've seen well, some companies have like folder redirection. And then when you log in for the first time, it takes 10 years to log in because of folder redirection and a bunch of other stuff that they run behind the scenes.
Yeah, Anthony, that's a good point. You do want your web services like IIS. You want those to be hosted on like a server that's living in your DMZ, which is like a secure part of your router to protect those web-facing services that you have. So it's good to always have those separated.
Also, too, if you got the longer wait-in time, if you guys are using roaming, something called roaming profiles, where you sit down on the computer, anywhere you down, and it looks exactly like your desktop, and all your information is there. That's called like a roaming profile. So sometimes people say, and that'll definitely increase the login time too as well. So a lot of companies maybe did that years ago. I don't have no idea if that's still popular yet or not. Maybe because now we have a faster internet connections and all that stuff. Maybe it is more.
It's starting to go away. With
trying to
folder
go away.
with folder redirection and cloud-based like file services like OneDrive and all that stuff, it's just kind of going away.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I installed Active Directory successfully on this, and you see that it's there, but you can't really do anything on it because it's not there's not a PC joined to the domain. So obviously this person is not going to have access to Active Directory, but just give me a second. I have this open and I want to show you guys something very interesting. So if I go to CMD here on the server, right? And I do, let's do net accounts like I did before, right? It has that. And I want to go over something real quick, which
Can you
which
tell us
Steve-
what that's showing there, Kev? Can you tell us to the viewers what you're showing there?
No, it says net accounts is the password. So it's like the maximum password age is 42 days. Maximum password length is 7 days. Length of password history maintained 24. So I actually wanted to go over this, but with group policy. So typically when you set up a server for the first time, like this particular server, it doesn't have it, and it doesn't have password policy set up yet on it. You have to actually enable it or set it up in group policy, which is what I actually wanted to go over. So if you go in here and if you go into tools and if you go into group policy management right over here, it has all this stuff over here. It has the forest, the domains, kevtech.com, the default domain policy. It has the domain controller, group policy objects, and all this other stuff, right? And then this is where people get confused about this. So Hammy, which one does it take? Which one is the one that you're supposed to make changes on? This one, or this one? Why is there 3 of them?
None of them. You make new ones.
Make new ones, right? So here there are several different ones. And then if I make a change here right now, Hammy, which one is the one I'm supposed to be making changes on? This one up here or the ones on the bottom?
The objects. The ones above are just links. That's why they have like shortcut icons on them.
So this one here that I'm clicking on right now?
No, that's just a link. You would edit the objects. The objects is where you make changes.
Yep.
The other icons are they're just like shortcuts to the objects. That's how you link them to them, because you would have, so you only have one folder called domain controllers, but you could make another folder called user computers. You could have it user laptops. You could have all kinds of different groups in there, and then link those objects to only specific groups.
Makes sense. So like if I go here and I hit edit, and there's policies here, administration right over here, there's Windows here. Security is what I was talking about, right? You go into account policies and password policy. You see how nothing is set up? There's nothing defined here. You actually have to change the settings here. So how do you what's your policy, Hammy, on this? Like what was it 6? Is it 3 times they get locked out, 30 minutes? How's your setup? Like just finds 5 invalid attempts.
Ours is 4 invalid attempts and 30-minute lockout.
What about yours, Steven?
I believe ours is 5 invalid attempts and a 3-minute lockout. Yeah, I think we're down to like, I believe it's 90 days for a password to change too as well. I think they keep on kicking it down. So it was at 180 because of the plague, and now it's down to 90, I believe. They're starting to shorten it again.
Do you guys do you guys have any other like what about the complexity of the passwords and stuff like that?
We have that, yes. It starts as 10. We're at 10 characters now, I believe. So, uppercase, lowercase, special character. And plus we use that something called spec ops, they call it. Something kind of password thing. That a screen comes up on the side of it, gives us all green check marks whenever we comply to what that wants.
That's a separate software that does that.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain, but it works.
It's all of this stuff is based on what like you have to do. So there can be a default one that you have, but so like my domain admins, they have a 16 character policy. My HR department has to have minimum of 10. It's all based on compliancy. So because HR has OSHA compliancy, OSHA states it's got to be 10 characters minimum. So that's why we have different password policies based on departments. So
That makes sense. Yeah, so right now I went to go get the Windows 10 VM right over here, which is what I have right over here. I'm gonna close out of this. I'll leave this open for now. I'm gonna move this to the side. I'm trying to because we're doing Windows 10 today, right? So I installed Windows 10 already. I'll show you another day how to do it because like beyond the scenes, it's like will take forever to install Windows 10 and a bunch of other stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm logged in as Willis, and I'm gonna see if I could because I did change some DNS settings on it. I just want to see if I could ping kevtech.com, which I can, should work. So when you're doing help desk or IT support, and Steven could call me on this and Henry could call me on this, you'll have like those issues where the computer throws off the domain, or you lose the trust relationship of a computer. So you have to know how to remove the computer and re-add it to the domain. It's like a common help desk thing every single day that we have to do. So I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about it, but that's like every day it's a ticket on, oh, I lost my computer is no longer talking to the domain controller. And in some companies, I guess having to call me on some companies, they have a policy set where the computers check in every 90 days or something. And if it doesn't check in, it gets rid of it, or it puts it in disable objects and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if your job has that, but some companies have it set up that way. So it's just like a policy thing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to properties. I'm going to rename this PC, I'm going to change, and I'm going to add this to.
do you know how to join it to the domain by PowerShell?
Actually, I do, but I'm not going to do that today.
Okay.
Yeah, I know how to do that. I did a whole video on it, actually. So.
Somebody had a question about the group policies. So when this one's restarting, if you want to go pull that screen back up on the server.
Yep. Yeah, so I was able to add it to the domain. It's easy. It's fairly easy, like, which is fine. It's gonna give me an error message. It's totally fine. Restart now. Go back here. Should be open already. What was the question about group policy?
He just said he got confused as to the difference between the objects section and the links section. So if you see how he's got the forest called kevtech.com, that's right under domains. And then under that, there's a default domain policy. And it's got a little icon next to it that has the group policy icon, and it has a little shortcut arrow next to it. That means that policy, that object is linked to kevtech.com. Same thing with like domain controllers. There's a default domain controllers policy that's linked to that folder that says domain controllers. But those are just links. The actual policies are under the group policy objects folder.
So
when you would make changes.
When you make changes on both of these or just one?
It depends on what you're wanting to do. So if you're wanting to affect the entire domain, you would change default domain policy. If you're wanting to affect only the default domain controllers, you would change the domain controllers policy, because the domain controllers policy is only linked to that domain controllers folder.
Makes sense. Yeah, see, it says this has nothing defined to it, so I'm going to turn that on. This one. Yeah, people get confused sometimes with this. Go back to server manager. Yeah, then that's it. You basically, like, for someone brand new, like, you play around with this. Like, I'm going to create a brand new account right now. So I'm going to call it, before I even do that, Let me see here, administrator. You see how there are different groups associated with the administrator account? Some companies like Steve, I don't know how Steve does it. I know Hammy, he probably does PowerShell commands, right? Some companies, they may have a new hire that's here already that you could just copy over, right? So obviously, I want to create a power user today, right? So I'm gonna copy him. So I'm gonna copy this admin account. I'm gonna create a duplicate of this account. Instead of me manually doing it one by one and adding them to groups, I'm just gonna right click on it and do copy. And I'm gonna call it Hemi. I'm gonna hit next. Put password, leave it alone. Do welcome one and create it. So what this does is it copies all the permissions of the admin account. So you don't have to manually add them to groups one by one. Otherwise, I'll be here till tomorrow. Obviously, there's a way to do it on PowerShell. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it on PowerShell to copy a bunch of accounts and export them. Maybe there's a way to do it with Excel, CSV files, Hammy. I'm pretty sure you have a way of doing it. Like you have to have if you have like 50 new hires tomorrow, right? Obviously, we're not gonna create the accounts one by one, right? We'll be here till tomorrow, That doesn't make any sense. So you would just run PowerShell commands for that. So I don't know if you guys want to say anything, but I'm gonna see if I can log in with that account. Do you guys know you guys know what group the account needs to be part of for Rsat tools to work? For like a help desk person? Or could it just be any group? Or does it because of delegation control?
We have a separate group out of my company that's called IT users. And the IT users are the ones who have access, who have been delegated that access.
Oh, so yours is done with security groups. Got it.
Ours is all done with security groups, yeah.
Okay.
I would think ours is done too that way. I believe. I think so. We got to be in some group, HCL, something admins, something like that.
Got it. Oh, that makes sense. Just wondering. So right now I'm just logging in as Hammy. I'm just gonna confirm that Rsat Tools is working on this as I'm logged in as him, and then hopefully it should work because I did install Rsat Tools earlier, right? So you see server managers right there. Open that up real quick. Clicked on the wrong thing. See that in a second. There we go. There we go. There we go. And we could actually create accounts here. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna make one call Steven.
And just so everybody sees, what he's done is he's got a regular Windows 10 computer that he's been able to
That's right.
open Active Directory on.
Yep.
So he's no longer on the server making changes to Active Directory.
I'll now create an account called Steven. Then I'll make another one. Kevin. Yeah, so you don't need to have access to all this, right? Like I said, like the sysadmin or the hiring manager, right? They won't give you access to this whole thing. If they do, then there's something wrong with them. They shouldn't be giving you access to the whole thing. I mean, if they do, I mean, more power to you. But it's just you got to be careful with this because you'll have there's like too many things here. So like what Hammy said, right? Remember what he said about Rsat tools? You only have access to Active Directory users and computers. That's it. That's all you'll have in Helpdesk. You may not even have access to AD. I have people in Helpdesk that don't have access to Active Directory. You may not even have access to it. It depends on the company you work for. So it's different for every company. So hopefully, I want to go more in depth today, but I'm not going to because I've been up here for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours now. So I don't want to go too in depth, but hopefully this helps you out. I'll make another live Zoom session in the next couple of weeks. And let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have any questions? Hopefully this was helpful. Was it helpful at all? For anyone today? I'm gonna stop sharing. Let me know, guys.
Everybody in here is good with that? Yes, definitely helpful. Yes. So helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yes. Very, yes, very. Good stuff. Hey, Hammy, when it comes to single sign-on, is that something inside of Active Directory, or the domain controller does that, or is that a separate like tool which you have to install?
Single sign-on to what?
Like, you know, like at work, we have single sign-on. So if you go to the website, your website, your other things, you have like single sign-on. Like it just.
So
It's
single
signing with your
sign-on is a
password.
service.
It's a
So
service.
single sign-on is like a service that has been granted access to your Active Directory. If that's a simple way to explain.
Where does it come from? Microsoft? Or does it come from another company? Where does it come
Yeah.
from?
No.
so-
Well, it depends what application you're using. Because like some companies are use single sign-on with Okta, right? Okta might be combined together with Active Directory and then talk to your server, and it goes back and forth and you're able to log in to
So
make it
it's not-
simple for you.
So it's
Depends
not
on
a
the company.
Microsoft. It's not a Microsoft product. This is some company sells this thing called single sign-on and say, okay, here we're going to integrate it into your Active Directory to make it all work.
So single sign-on is literally just saying you have access to our Active Directory. Sometimes it's just a single software that has
that
access
handles
to
it.
your
Yep.
that has access to your Active Directory.
Yep.
And so whenever they click on sign on with
SSO.
your single sign-on,
Right.
that's a webhook link that has access to your Active Directory.
Yep.
Or with Azure. So, or you can have Okta, which is like a service that is like multi-platform. So it can handle a lot of different softwares, because some developers, they don't want to have to go through the Microsoft to get their single sign-on working. So what they'll do is they'll work with a software like Okta that's a whole lot easier to work with. And if a company has Okta, then Okta will do multi-platform. So you only have to set that up. If a company, like my company, doesn't have like an Okta or a multi-platform. So every single one of these little services or softwares that we want to do single sign-on with, I have to set that up separately every single time for that software. With Okta, it links to Okta, and Okta already has access to your Active Directory.
So it's like a cloud-based service then you pay for to have this done? Like
Single sign-on is just a tool.
It's a service, a tool.
Single sign-on isn't a software. It's an idea. And different vendors, different softwares use that to make the sign-on simpler. That's all it is.
I just never seen it done. That'd be something interesting, Kev, that kind of looking. I mean, I never seen it done. I never seen it start and then all of a sudden it would just work. I mean, because it's just something like, oh, is it just Active Directory? I just tell the people, oh, it's just, you're just logging in with Active Directory. You're logging in with your local credentials.
Well, some of them link in. So like my company has a hybrid with Azure.
Uh-huh.
And before that, I had to install like a software on one of my domain controllers that spoke to the internet and then allowed that software into our Active Directory. Now that I've got hybrid, I only have to set up the URLs that single sign-on uses for that software in Azure. So then I just give a URL to my person at the company and I say, hey, sign on with this URL to this software, and that URL has access through Azure to my Active Directory.
Yeah, I'm looking for my Office 365 account. Let me log into that real quick. Share my screen. Dave, you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
So I'm on enterprise applications right now, and I'm on the Azure portal right now. So if I click on Microsoft Teams, for example, right? And then you have all these things over here, right? There's things called single sign-on. You click on it, and it actually shows you how to create it. So if you click on it, it gives you information how to get started with it. And like what Hammy says, like you may have to need, you have like requirements for it, right? So this needs Active Directory AD Connect for it to work. Then you have to run certain things on it. You have tokens in here as well. And then you have the information of the employee that you're trying to set up.
Hmm.
And you got to put them in there. And basically that's what it is. Basically what it is. Like obviously there's security concerns over here, but yeah, that's basically what it is. You're configuring it and setting up behind the scenes, but you have to manually do SSO with every single application. But like for me, my job, because I work in an enterprise environment with hedge funds, right? We use Okta. Okta is just one platform that manages all those things. It makes life so much easier for the company that I work in. But for someone like Hammy, they have to manually do it for each one, you know? So
Is it hard, Hammy, or is it just something that is it really simple, or am I just making it really more complicated than what it really is? It's simple.
I mean,
thing, or is it-
you see all the commands you have to run right
Yeah.
here.
Wow.
This
yeah.
so I did this for Teams. So I went through and I did all of this. So Microsoft Teams has single sign-on. Now I will say it looks scary, but it's
But it's
really
not.
not.
It's not.
If you start at the top and you read and you paste and do exactly what it says in the order, it's gonna work.
Hmm.
Like
Sure.
there's a group policy you have to create, and you apply that group policy, and that policy is applied to either your entire domain, or maybe you only have certain users that you want to have single sign-on for a certain software. That's Microsoft Teams. So you might just say, oh, I want all this department to have single sign-on, but I want this department to have to actually manually type in their passwords because I want to, whatever you want to do, you know. But their documentation is literally just follow it to the T.
And then you'll be
And
good.
just walk through. Don't skip stuff. Don't get excited. Don't get fired up. Read, follow documentation, install. That's what a sysadmin job is. It's literally reading documentation and following directions. Because at this point in like IT sysadmin, everything's been done before. You're not creating new stuff as a sysadmin. Making file shares and group policies, all that stuff has already been done. You're just following directions. So being a sysadmin, you know, you can break a lot of stuff, but that's just because you didn't follow directions.
Pretty much. Does that make sense, Steve?
Yeah, it does. I would like to see it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime we could run something through it just so.
I actually, believe it or not, I actually did SSO with Kevin.
Oh, did you?
Diaz.
Okay.
I don't know if he's here. Oh, he's not here. But I did SSO with Kev Diaz. I did SSO on server 2016, where we log into a portal like remote apps. I did remote applications with him, and I was here till 4 a.m. trying to get it to work. And then we got it to work. And I installed the certificates for the URL and everything, and we got it to work. And I was like a little kid on Christmas. Oh, it worked. Oh, we got it to work. And then I was able to log in and everything. But it took us like 3 hours to get it to work. I was up till 1 a.m. and I think I finished like at 4 or something like that. Kev's not here right now, but we'll talk about it later if he's on Discord. But yeah, I got it. I got SSO to work with him. And we did it on the website and everything. So it was really, really interesting. I normally don't do that kind of stuff, but it was very interesting. So
Yeah, our company must use something because I mean everything is all single sign-on except for SAP. Everything else is all single sign-on. So every application that we load up is pretty much 95%, 90% of it is all single sign-on. So that's why I was just curious about it. It's kind of like a mystery to me. Like, oh, it actually doesn't work. I just say, hey, it works with Active Directory and logs you in. I said, if that's messed up, you're not gonna get in. Or any kind of
we have SSO with Okta, and then Okta controls like Zoom. For example, Zoom, you click SSO sign in with SSO on Zoom, it does that. And the company apps people are used to log in, like Workday, Workday's one for setting up your hours and your time off. That's SSO. What's the other one? Concur. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Concur. That's like to set up your travel
Concur.
expenses. I deal with that as well.
I think
So
they use that.
SSO, Concur, the other one is CRM, log into CRM, it works. the intranet SSO as well, you know, it just throws you in there. With Okta, it does all that. So basically we have it set up that way. It's just single sign in, you know, click of a button, you log in and you're good to go. Because nobody wants to log in with their password anymore these days. You know, you want everything
Yeah.
like people want everyone wants things like, oh yeah, let me just log in and it works.
It's
you
better
know?
than letting people save their passwords to their browsers too.
So the browsers or they have a sticky note with their password on it underneath the table, underneath the keyboard, you know, try to avoid doing that at all times. So definitely. No, nobody.
So SA in here says something about CyberArk. Yeah, I freaking hate CyberArk.
Yep.
You got to reset passwords every freaking day. For our admin password, we have to go in and reset it every single day.
Mm.
What a pain in the ass that is. It just is. I'm sorry, I hate CyberArk with a freaking passion. I wish it would just go away and die somewhere, but people use it. I don't particularly like it. I always change the password in Active Directory and just bypass CyberArk totally because I hate it. But it's every single day though that they make us change it, which doesn't make any sense. It's only good for 24 hours, which to me is just mind-boggling. But that's the way our company does it, and I could see it like once a week, maybe like 5 days. But why every single day for it to use your admin password, or something we use every single day? Just doesn't make any sense to me. But that's why I hate CyberArk. So me and CyberArk do not get along.
Here's my passwords. My passwords change every 30 seconds. So
Oh, there you
you
go.
want to see my passwords? You see the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
circle?
Yeah.
Now all new passwords. Look at that. So I don't want to hear people complaining about having to remember I'm like, I gotta have my damn phone to type it to log into anything at this point. So
Yeah, I have a phone. I have a phone for logging in as well. My phone is password, and mine does the same thing. Hammond. It resets every 30 seconds, so I have to be quick on it. Otherwise, I can't log in.
right. And my passwords are like 16 characters long. So I have to like type in my username, then I type in my password, then I go back up to my username and I add the extra 6 characters to it.
You remember and Steven probably remembers too. You remember when you have to log in with your username, your password, and the password plus the RSA key fob number. You remember that?
That's what that
Oh boy.
Yeah, basically on the phone now, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys, yeah.
Now it's a soft token, but remember though, with the key fob keychain.
It was back in 2010 when I was working
Yeah.
on the insurance
Yeah,
company side.
yeah.
The
I
guys
was
had
like,
all
oh boy.
those little small key fobs.
Yep.
I mean,
RSA
there's a lot of
tokens.
companies that still use YubiKey.
Yeah,
There's
they
a lot
do.
of companies still use it.
Yeah, they do. I know JP Morgan's still using it.
It's hella secure. You lose that key, you ain't getting into your computer.
Pretty much. Pretty much. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. Hopefully today's session was fun. Hopefully it helped somebody out here that is brand new or, you know, just is trying to learn, right? Don't be afraid of Active Directory. Everyone starts, you know, you gotta get your feet wet, right? Just go and do it and learn it. Don't be afraid of it. It's easy to use. Hopefully it made sense today. If not, let us know. We'll do another session later on in the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna do more advanced topics, but just and start with basics. All right. You guys have any questions?
I don't know how you made this far.
The
No.
recording will be on Discord, so don't worry about the recording. Just go ahead and watch it. All right.
I don't know.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Have a good night.